Welcome CSC 121 class. I'm going to give you just a quick little overview of Repl.it and also just a quick little practice assignment that we'll do just to kind of start off and get your account set up and make sure that you can use Repl.it. And again, this is a cloud-based code editor that you can use. It's real quick and easy. I like to use it. You can use a number of programming languages. You can also use Python and Python turtles, which is nice because there aren't many cloud-based IDEs that can work with the Python turtles other than Trinket. I'm logged in right now. This is Homa WCCC. That's my login. It'll also show that when I share my files or when I share my repels, it'll use that, my username in the URL. So when you set up your username, just be aware of what kind of name you have in there. And these are my repels that I have in right now. And you can see there's messing around with Java and Python. There's Python with turtles and stuff like that. You can do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, all kinds of things in here. Here's a Python turtle. And you have basically your output area here. Now, you'll just have a console when you do regular Python. But when you do Python turtles, they'll have a little kind of GUI area that's going to display. I'll just run it here, and you can see there's a little exercise from the How to Think Like a Computer Scientist book, I believe. That was a thing to kind of draw little squares where they'd give you some exercises to do. This area over here on the left side, as you see this, now you can't do multiple files over here, so it looks a little different than the other Python. So I'll just close up my settings over here. Let me open another repel of just a basic Python one. Here's one. I'll click on this. It's just a link that you'll click on. And here's one here. I'll just run this. This kind of generates numbers. And you'll see these numbers. This is kind of a sum, an average of a list of numbers. Now you can see there's a main.py that's here, and that's what it's going to be running. Even though you can make other files and even folders and all kinds of things you can put in here, it'll only run the main.py. That's the only issue. You can't keep running all the different files. So you'd have to actually import into there, but you don't have to worry about that right now. A couple things in here. These are your files. You could close that up if that's taking up space. You have settings here so that if you want to have it, if you have like a lot of long line lengths and things like that, and you find yourself, you keep doing this to make sure that things line up okay. You could go and stack this. They have an area where you can put it stacked instead of side by side. So if that works better, you could do that for the time being. They have the darker theme here if you like to work in the darker theme. For just what I'm doing here, since I just do quick little things and just quick little practice stuff, I usually just leave it in the light theme. If I'm working in like VS Code or something, I like the dark theme. But for here, especially since we have the terminal that's black right here, I like kind of the contrast of the light and dark. I don't need everything in dark. I'm not doing tons of code in Repl.it right now, so that's not a big deal. But that's basically the way it works. Now, I'm going to sign out of this. And I'll just go through signing in. I'll actually sign up, and I'll make a new account, and I'll make up a very simple password. Use the same password for all of these just so I remember them, so I don't have to think of different passwords. So it's not a really strong password, so that's okay. And I'll sign up. I'm not going to put a bio in here or anything right now. I'll just hit save. It did take my picture. Now, it didn't say anything about verifying my email. Sometimes you do. And I'm just going to do start coding now. And what happens is when it comes into here, you basically these are your repels. When you start a new repel, we don't have a button to do it because right now it's just defaulting to that. You can do Python. There's Python with turtles. There's Java, anything, all kinds of stuff you can do in here. And I'm just going to start with Python because that's the first one they show is the newest version of this. And this thing keeps coming up here. And the way it sets up is they give you some kind of randomly generated name to start. And what I'm going to have you do for this exercise, this first one we're going to do, is just go up here and change the name. Now, this isn't the file name. We're going to call it Ex1 NameAge. And I'm actually just going to do it in kind of camel case here. I'll keep name lowercase and put age there since we have a 1 right there. I'll just call it NameAge. And I'm not going to put a description. I mean, if you could, it could just be first exercise or something. And that's all you need right now. Now, what you're going to do here, what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'll give you written instructions, is you're just going to create variables for name and age, just like they're doing in. We're kind of using this as a basis here, this bite of Python, where they're actually going into basics. And the part we're kind of focusing on is the format methods, where they basically combine strings and variables together. And they have a couple different methods, and I just want you to be aware of the different methods. That's the only thing we're doing here. And then also to learn how to set up to actually send me the URL. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do four ways of doing this. We're going to use the format method, where it uses the dot format and it puts the variables in parentheses from up here, and then you just kind of put brackets, curly brackets within the strings. They have another one where they actually concatenate, where they use the plus sign, kind of like we do in JavaScript. There's another method, it's a shorter method, where you actually just put an F. Here it is, F strings, where they do that one. So I only want you to do it those three ways. And as far as the format, you could use the one with the number too, at least so you know what that is. You don't have to use these numbers. These numbers right here are just for changing the order of variables. So normally you wouldn't need them, but if you need to change the order of things, you could. So I'll have you do it both ways, and I'll have you put little comments so you know which one it is. So what I'm going to have you do when you get in here and do this, you're already called this Ex1 NameAge, and then you're just going to make a name variable, and you just have to do name equals, and you're going to make a string, and you could put your name in here. So I'll put my name in here. Now you could use any name, doesn't matter, you don't have to use your own name. I'll put me, since I'm working on that, and then I'll put a variable for age, and this one will be just a number. It's an integer, and it's just going to be 51 because that's going to be my age. So we have two types of data types here. We have a string. We're making two variables. We have a string, and we have an integer for age. So that's why they're different colors. And I'll hit return twice here. We're going to make 4 print statements. So let me make my first one, and you could copy and paste these then, so that'll be easier to do. And I'll even make this a little bigger. I'll go here to my settings. I'll make it a little bigger right now, so it's easier to see. And what I'm going to put in here is just something real simple. Like I said, we're being really basic. I'm just going to put my name is, and then I'm going to put curly brackets, and I am curly bracket years old. And then we're going to use variables in here. And again, I'll spread this out a little bit, and if it gets really long, we could, even stack it if you want. But it says my name is that, and I am blank years old. So it's going to basically put in the variables that are in there. Now there's a couple methods to do this. So that's why I'm going to put a comment here, and I'll put format method, and I'm putting a comment here, and once I hit return, you'll see that's gray because it's a comment, so that won't show up in my code. And to end this, what we have to do after the string, see, everything's inside the string here, inside the double quotes. You could use double or single. I'm using double. And then you're going to do dot format, and then in parentheses we're going to put our variables. So my two variables are name, and then I'll do comma and age. They're almost like arguments somewhat. So that's the way this one kind of works, and I'll spread it out even a little more, or maybe I'll stack it. Stacking might work better, at least when I'm starting off as I'm writing these, and then I could run it the other way. So this is the first method that they show, and again, this is right out of the bite of Python, so you could go look at that. You don't have to watch me do all this kind of stuff, but we have this method here, and what it's actually going to do, since we're indicating the two variables, this is the format method. And you could try this out, see if it works. My name is Rich, and I'm 51 years old. If you want a period, I'll put a period inside the double quote, and that works. Now, also, one other thing I'll try here, I'll just copy and paste this so I don't have to do it again. I'm going to put a second method here. I'm going to put format method numbers. And what you can do here is I'll just do one that gets switched around. If this one is first and this one is second, if I want to switch those around, and let's say I want to put 2 and 1, I'm going to do this, and you may know what's going to happen already when I do this. When I run it, I'm going to get an error. Now, why did I get an error? Because remember, in computers, it said, look what it says. It says tuple. Even if you don't know what a tuple is, it says index out of range, because there's no 2. Because remember, in computers, everything starts at 0. So it has to go, name is 0 and age is 1. So these are wrong. So this would have to be 1, and this would have to be 0, and then that should work. Now it just flipped around those names. Again, we're just trying out different things here. And I'm just flipping it around just so it looks different. Now I'm going to copy this again, and we'll try another method. And this one I'm going to do the concat method. I'll call it that. And this is the one like JavaScript where we have the plus signs. So what we could do here, now this one is a little bit longer, so let me get all this stuff out of here right now. And the way this works is we're going to just put the variable here and put name, and then plus, and then we're going to do a plus here. Here can I kind of divide things by plus, and I am, and I'm going to put age, and then plus. Now right now, if I did it, it doesn't recognize these things. They would just be plus signs. What we actually have to do is end our string here, and this one is probably the most work out of it. And this is showing it blue because it's actually a keyword. And and everywhere that's supposed to be a string, we have to put quotes around, and they have to match up. And everywhere that's a variable, it just has to have this plus in between here. So what we're doing is we're concatenating or joining variables and strings together. So here's age, here's name, and right now we also have to have the spaces. There should be a space here, a space here, a space here, and a space here. The spaces in between the plus signs don't really matter, but the spaces in the quotes matter. So I still have a little squiggle under here, so you can see I'm missing my closing parentheses. So I'll try it out and see how this works. I'll hit run, and I have an error, and that's okay, because the issue we're having here, it says must be string, not int. It's because this is an integer. And the reason this is having a problem with an integer, you say, well, why does that matter if it's just a variable? Here's a variable, that's a variable. Why does it matter? It matters because you're using plus signs, and it's treating this as a number. So it's trying to add a number to words, to a string, which doesn't really work. That's why you actually have to do this. You have to put str and then put that in parentheses. So this method, you can see right away, took the most work out of all of these. And then finally the last one, which is the easiest, and I'll just copy this top. Actually, I'll copy the top one again, because that's the order that it needs to go. This is the easiest method when you're combining strings. And I'll just put F strings, because I think that's what they call it. And this is a newer method, I think, starting with Python version 3.6. And we just put an F before the string, before the quotes of the string. You just put an F there. And then basically you don't need this stuff at the end, which is nice. You don't have to have all those things at the end, but you basically just put the name in here and you put the age in there. You still use curly brackets, but F, this is kind of like a shortcut of this top version up here where they have all this dot format, name, age, and all that kind of stuff. So this is the easiest way to kind of combine variables, and it doesn't care if this is a integer or not. It just kind of treats it as a variable. It kind of protects it in here. So this F string is the kind of the easiest method. So if I run this, that's what I have. My name is Rich, 51. So everything looks the same. So that's what you want to do, is just get these four methods here. The number one, you could just switch them around with the 0 and 1. And then what you're going to do when you're done is you're going to share it with me. Now to share it, I'm going to go in here, and you just have to click on the link and copy it. Control-C if you're on a Windows, Command-C if you're on Mac, and just copy that URL. And you're going to send it to me. Now, before I tell you how to send it to me, I have to get into my Warren, and what I'll do is I'll actually set up the assignment for you, because what you're going to do is you're going to put this URL in a comment. So I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but basically this is all you'll have to do. You'll just set up this Ex1 NameAge, and you'll set up basically two variables, a string and a integer for age, and then we're just doing these four things. So you're just going to send it to me. It's just a way to just practice that you can get your Repl.it set up, and that you could also send it to me. So let me stop here, and then what I'll do is I'll show you how to share it through my Warren.